Greetings to one and all. I am Makita. Welcome to Mind of Makita, my YouTube channel that is dedicated to exploring all things life, spirituality, philosophy, with a hint of motherhood and family building, because I am a mom, a full-time mom for the past like over 8 years of my life, and also a wife for 9 years. So this channel is really centered around sharing perspectives, thoughts, lessons that I've received as a woman who identifies as one on a journey of spiritual awakening, consciousness evolution, and also deconstructing from Christianity or religious-based spirituality. So if any of that interests you or you're on a similar journey, then I welcome you to join the channel. And we're just going to jump right into today's video. Today, I want to talk about two concepts that are very dear to me. As you can see, the title of the video is The New Earth is Matrifocal. And the two concepts that we're going to be focusing on is the concept of New Earth and the concept of matrifocal living. So I'm going to give a little bit of definition first to kickstart this for anyone who's not familiar with this topic of New Earth, and also the concept of matrifocal living. So, and I did some writing, so I have my book, so I'm going to be reading from the book. So what is the New Earth? The New Earth refers to a transformative shift in human consciousness and society. It's the idea of moving from an ego-driven, disconnected way of living to a state of unity, higher awareness, and harmony with ourselves, each other, and the planet. So before I define matrifocal living, I'm going to talk a bit about this concept of New Earth. So I came across this concept as I was on my journey of just exploring spirituality. As I shared, I was a Christian growing up. So right now I'm in like a deconstruction phase, which is basically just really exploring different ideologies and dynamics of spirituality, and kind of just like breaking down everything that I was taught, or I want to say programmed to believe about God as a child, and just really finding God for myself, you know. So I've been on this journey for the past almost 9 years. I'll be 29 in February. And I started this journey at the age of 19, around 20, when I got pregnant. More so around 20, I should say. But it got triggered at 19, but really started to dive into it at the age of 20 when I got pregnant with my first child. So when I really came across the New Earth concept, it was really centered around this ideology of living in community, you know, in nature-oriented communities, and just a nature-rooted lifestyle. And I love the idea, you know, becoming a mom and just recognizing that, whoa, not only is there a lot of systemic issues that we have to bear, but there are also racial issues that are affecting us up to this day. And you know, raising Black children, I started to realize that I didn't want them to be a part of a lot of the things that I grew up having to be a part of. Now, I didn't have the worst life ever, but the more you understand love, the more you realize that our societies are dysfunctional, the more you realize that there's a lot of things that we normalized and settled for in family life, in school life, in societal life, that is just not normal. It's not functional living. And so the idea of the New Earth, from my understanding, was about shifting back to a way of living that is more rooted in our primordial rhythms, or natural rhythms, or pre-colonial rhythms, as I like to call it, you know, the rhythms of life before colonization, before enslavement, before we were programmed by religion and patriarchy, and literally, you know, programmed to operate in a way that only benefits this power hungry hierarchical or hierarchical driven society. I'll put the word up there in case I didn't say that right. But you know, the point is, we live in these societies that are based on these class structures, socioeconomic class structures, and this isn't new. You know, it's not new. A lot of people tend to think that one of the main problems in the world is just the racial issues, you know, but really the racial issues stemmed from class issues, class separation. and the fact that in every race there were these people who decided that those who are of the low socioeconomic status, who they classify as poor, and usually these were, if you really go back into history, these are the people who were more so living connected to the land, the farmers, those people who were doing subsistence farming, which they called peasant farming. So these are the people who had more of a pagan spirituality. And so, you know, I read a book recently called The Great Cosmic Mother, and it was really going deep into this ideology of what life was like before colonization, and why there was this separation between the pagans and the Christians, and how that led into slavery and the socioeconomic classes and such. But not to get ahead of the topic, but you know, shifting into the new earth is basically about, number one, getting away from all of those corrupt systemic issues that we have to face. Anyway, let's jump back in. So the next thing that we're going to look at is matrifocal. Now, matrifocal is derived from the Latin words mater, which means mother, and focus, which means center. It describes a system of perspective that places nurturing, compassion, and collaboration at the heart of societal values. So as I shared previously, pre-colonization, it's believed that our societal systems are matriarchal and, you know, matrifocal. There's a key difference, because matriarchal can sometimes be the equal opposite of patriarchal, where some women might not respect men, but matrifocal living is more so centered around honoring the feminine values, and especially the nurture values, the nourisher values, you know, and that's about sustaining life. So the whole ideology of matrifocal living is that we live understanding that nourishment is centered, you know, and of course it's centered around the mother, because the mother is who is the key nourisher in life. The mother is who creates the life, sustains the life in her body, and then goes on to being the person who is more or most equipped to attune to the baby's needs, learn about the baby's rhythms, learn about the food and nourishment requirements of the babies. And of course, that's the start of civilization, you know. It all started with a baby being born. It all started with a woman recognizing that I have milk in my breast, I'm able to nourish a child, etc., etc. So matrifocal living is centered around the fact that we recognize that as mothers, as humans, we need nourishment. Our children need nourishment. We need to nourish each other. And, you know, one of the key things that stands out to me is that a lot of these communities, especially when they got to the stage of being in settled villages, they were farmers. They were farming communities, because going back to the nature spirituality really came out of recognizing that when they were working with the earth, there were different cycles of life, and, you know, the seasons and farming. There were times of planting the seed, there were times of watering and weeding and having to maintain, and then there's a time of harvest, and then you'd see the plant die, and then the time of death would come and the cycle would start again. And they started to recognize that we as humans, our cycles reflect those cycles. There's so much similarities in the cycles. And again, the mother was a central part in this, because the mother, again, is the one who could give the guidance on what it's like to create life, just like Mother Nature. Despite the fact that we as human beings have a duty to work with nature, to learn how to sustain nature and protect nature, it's still nature's power that allows us to have the nourishment that we need. When we put that seed down in nature, we trust her to do the work to make it into something that's going to take care of our bodies. So this concept of matrifocal living is really centered around, you know, or connected to the new earth concept, because going to a new earth is really returning to the primordial ways that we were supposed to sustain, but also utilizing our modern understanding, utilizing our modern technology, utilizing the wisdom we've gained over the many years that we've gone through, from being in the Neolithic times to now being in the ages that we are now. And so, even interestingly, when you consider the fact that, I mean, a lot of astrologers share about or shift into the age of Aquarius, and Aquarius governs, all things community, but also technology and innovation, you'll see that literal bridge between bringing back the traditional, bringing back the primordial practices that help to sustain life, but also implementing innovative tools, innovative practices, utilizing technology for the benefit of nature, and especially so for the benefit of our needs, our nourishment needs as human beings, and for the benefit of supporting mothers and empowering mothers in the work of nurturing our children and building families. Because one of the things that I like to highlight is that in the great awakening, the spiritual awakening that everyone's talking about, the reason why we're really especially focusing on the divine feminine is because for so long the divine masculine, or the ego-driven masculine, was in power. And this was very much fed by patriarchy. The fact that for many centuries, men were put in power, men were seen as more powerful, men were given religious superiority, and so forth. And especially in white culture, or the Caucasian societies, this led over into the racism and the culture wars and the race-based biases that people have to confront. And this all connects back to the shift that we have to go through to go into a new earth. When we shift into a new earth, we recognize that we all come from a mother, and all mothers, regardless of race, requires nourishment. We all go through the same experiences when we receive that seed of life, and we have to nurture it with our bodies, and we feel that shift in our energy when we're conscious moms who are simply attuned to the loving energy of creating a child, and we accept this divine role, and we want this divine role. All of us mothers can relate to that shift that we go through, and so this is also why the new earth is matrifocal, because there's no real separation between us aside from the separations that we create in our mind, and that are rooted in the socioeconomic class structures that have been given to us. The socioeconomic class structures is why someone can be super rich and pass someone who is needy and poor and not have any empathy, and I know there are so many complicated conversations that we can have around, well, should the rich just give their money to the poor, and what about if the poor has bad habits and such, and blah blah blah. And definitely this is something that we need to talk about, but what we have to recognize is that if we're going to live in a society where we just think people who are in poverty are automatically terrible people and people who are rich are automatically the good ones of the earth, then we're still living in that ego-driven patriarchal structure that literally messed up our earth. When we come from that matrifocal perspective, we recognize that first of all, we need compassion, we need collaboration. These are some of the qualities, and apologies for saying a lot. I'm gonna have to work on that, but these are some of the qualities of the divine feminine and the mother energy: compassion, collaboration, nourishment, nurturing, community building, all of these things. And so a society, a world built on matrifocal principles is not governed by a lot of the ego-driven ways of the masculine, which is about power, control, dominance, all these things, feeling like your power, your material resources and success makes you higher than another. So this is just an introduction video because this channel is new. I can't really go past 15 minutes. I'm not sure if I'm past 15 minutes, but I'm definitely going to keep this conversation going. If you like this video, if you find this conversation interesting, or if it aligns with your journey, definitely let me know in the comment. Let me know where you're commenting from. I'm here in Jamaica, and I'm really grateful to be doing this. I've been visualizing creating my channel for some time. I have another channel where I more share my journey of building off the grid and taking on the challenge of creating a family homestead for our family to strive. You can check out that channel at Rooted Nourishment. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in another video.